Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns of inaccuracy. Hello, welcome to Geeks Speak, and today we're going to look at the historical accuracies and inaccuracies of Mulan. For this, we're going to look at the Disney film, which is the most well-known version of Mulan, and we're going to look at it from the historical context. First, the background. The Disney film Mulan, along with other films and iterations of Mulan, are all based off of the Ballad of Mulan, which was a poem done by a man named Gao Maoquin. In which case, in this ballad, there are some differences between the Mulan of that ballad and Mulan of the film. For instance, her historical name, her name within the legend was called Hui Mulan, not Fa Mulan. So that was a twist that Disney added in terms of her naming. Next Mulan is not based off of a real person or in any shape or form. She's more or less an entire fiction. So there's no historical records of any woman dressing up as a man to get into the Chinese army in ancient times. Maybe there are, but there's no discovery. But pretty much for the entire tale, Mulan is fictional. One funny fact that I found out is that in the tale she actually does have a biological little brother. When you look at it in the Disney film, she has a dog called Little Brother. So, again, Disney taking some leeways. In terms of the legend, Mulan did have experience at least in combative training with swords and martial arts training. So unlike her Disney film counterpart, she didn't really have to learn everything from scratch within an army training camp. So the Mulan of Legends was already more of a man than the Disney Mulan. No offense, Disney. Next is in terms of the legends is the main enemy. So in the legends, Mulan's homeland is not being threatened by the Huns, but being threatened by this force called the Roran. The Roran were nomadic tribes that wanted in what they called it at that point the Northern Empire. In which case, around 400 AC, China was divided into three different nations. You had the Northern Nation or the Northern Empire and the Southern Empire. Then you had the main empire in between. So Mulan is set in the north. So it's a northern Chinese fable. In the Disney film, the main villains called the Huns are actually based off of a historical group called the Zhaigao or the Zhaigao. In which case, there is debate about whether or not the Zhaigao predates the Huns that were roaming and pillaging in the Roman Empire, or whether or not the Romans took the naming from the Chinese Huns and made it their own. So there's historical debate on that, but it's very nice. But it's very nice to see that there is some sort of historical context about whether or not the Huns are an Asian nomadic culture, or were an Asian nomadic culture. In which case the conflict in the original tale of Mulan would have taken place around 429 to 456 AD. In the tale, Mulan was in the army and fighting in a war for 12 years. Compared to the Disney film, which is about a month or so, a couple months, yeah. Legends Mulan has mileage and military experience behind her. Again, nothing against Disney's Mulan. She did take out the leader of the Huns with a firecracker and a little dragon. In the Disney film, the main villain of the Huns, the leader of the Huns, is called Shan Yu. The name Shan Yu was spelled with a C instead of an S, was actually the surname of many Zhaigong leaders. So Shan Yu is slightly real. As a person, no. As a surname, yes. And another interesting fact is the conflict that takes place in the Disney film. So historically, there was a war between the Huns and the Chinese Empire. That is called the Han-Zhaigong War, which was fought from 138 BC and ended in 89 AD. So to put it in perspective, by the time the Chinese defeat the Huns, it had been 10 years before that. Pompeii and Herculaneum was destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Yeah. So, in taking in context of the ballad, the Disney's Mulan is 100 years earlier compared to what was done in the ballad. So, a bit of a time jump in terms of societies, but either way, both have a compelling story. Some of the fun facts that you notice in the Disney film is one, in the beginning of the film, we see the Huns take over sections of the Great Wall of China. So historically speaking, the Great Wall was there at the time of the Huns' invasion of China. It was under the Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who was the first emperor of China, that the Great Wall was starting to take shape. The wall would not be fully completed until the Qin dynasty, which took place around 1500 AD. Then second is the Forbidden City. At the climax of the Disney film, we see Mulan rushing into the Forbidden City to alert people that Shan Yu and a few members of his army still survive. Historically speaking, the Forbidden City would not be built until 1406 to 1422. In which case, around that time period, China had become unified after the defeat of the Mongol Empire. In which case, one of the key things that they used to defeat the Mongol Empire was the use of guns, which as we know, China was the first nation to develop gunpowder and rockets, but they also were the first civilization to pioneer gun technology. In which case, one of the interesting things about the live-action Mulan, which I'm looking forward to, and in comparison to other live-action Disney movies, is that the live-action is promised to be more historically accurate. Whether it means it's going to follow either the original war that the Ballad of Mulan is based off of, whether it means it's going to follow the historical war between the Chinese Empire and the Huns is up for debate. However, it's going to take more. It's going to try to be more centered and grounded, and try to be more of a war story. While that means there's not going to be a Mushu, a Captain Li Shang, or any comic relief, I still think it's going to be a very interesting take about the Mulan story. In which case, we'll have many. This is the first of many videos where we look at the historical accuracies and inaccuracies of various pieces in fandom, but there'll be more on that later. And I will see you in the future, my friends.